Hello again, friends. Welcome to another fun day of science with Miss Allen. This week, if you remember, we are talking about that new material. It's not wood, it's not paper, it's fabric. And today we are going to be exploring a little bit more about fabric. What we're going to be talking about today is how fabric is made. I just want you to think in your brain, how do you think fabric might be made? Do you think people make fabric? Or do you think it comes from somewhere? Where does fabric come from? Do you think it comes from a factory? Do you think fabric is grown somewhere? Well, friends, fabric is made from a thread or a yarn, and it's all put together. Some people like to make fabric, where other people like to buy their fabric from a factory. But fabric is always made either by a person or by a machine from some type of thread or yarn. So what happens is people take thread or yarn, and if you look really closely at these fabric samples, or if you look really closely at your pants, or look really closely at your shirt, you're going to notice it looks like a little pattern. So this top one, this one that's white, looks like a tiny little bumpy pattern. This one here looks like a little knotted pattern, all these little knots. And this one here looks again kind of like a tiny little bumpy pattern. What those bumps and patterns are is where people tied the knots or where they put together the threads or the yarns to make all of these different fabric types. So today, friends, I'm going to show you two of our fabric samples. We're going to talk about how people or machines put together the fabric or put together the threads to make the fabric. If you look here on my screen, friends, I have two different samples. This first sample is called cloth burlap, and this sample is called it's fabric. It's called wool plaid. So first, I'm going to pull this one up to the camera. And I want you to notice the pattern. This one looks like a bunch of little knots too, but I can see that there are some pieces that go this way and some pieces that go this way. If I start to pull on some of these pieces, they easily come off. And to me, the pattern looks like some pieces go this way, some pieces go this way, but they overlap in certain parts. And it looks like they overlap every other. What's the pattern? Pretty interesting. So this fabric, friends, was made by two different threads, one that goes up and down, one that goes side to side, and they overlap each other. So either a person or a machine goes through and make sure that they overlap in a certain pattern to make this burlap. Pretty cool. We're going to try looking at this wool sample now. I want you to think, do you think this is going to be the same or different than the burlap? Let's see if we can try to pull a couple pieces off. Oh, there we go. There's a big black piece. This one was harder to see the pattern, but just as easy to pull the pieces off. Let's see if I can get more off. See if we can see the pattern a little bit better. There we go. Do you see that? So now I'm starting to see all these little pieces that look like they're coming out straight to the side, and the pieces I'm pulling off are the ones that are going up and down. Very interesting. Cool. So every fabric is made out of these little threads. Do you see these? Threads or strings or yarn or whatever you want to call these. All fabric is made out of thread or yarn of some sort, and it's put together by either a machine or a person that puts it together in a pattern. The reason that we have the pattern, friends, is to keep the fabric together and to keep it strong. Could you imagine just wearing threads like this? No! You wouldn't be covered up or warm at all. That's why they put them together in a certain pattern to keep the threads together so that they can keep you warm and covered up. So, friends, if you take a peek, let's just focus really hard on this one sample, this burlap. This burlap has two different yarns. We talked about this, the ones that go up and down, and that ones that go side to side. Each one of those directions has a different name to it. The name for the piece that goes side to side is called a weft. Say that with me. Ready? Weft. What's special about the weft is it never ends. If you watch my mouse, it just keeps going around and around and around and around, but it does go in the pattern. So if we start here, it goes under, over, under, over, under, over, all the way until it gets to the end, and then whoop, it switches, and it goes over, under, over, under, over, under, and it keeps going until whoop, it switches over, under, but remember the weft never ends. It keeps going and going and going until the way, way, way end where they have to tie a knot in. The other pieces, the pieces that go up and down, these are called the warp. Say that with me, warp. Very good. The warp are the pieces that go the opposite direction of the weft. So these ones might start at the top, they might start at the bottom, but they also go in a pattern. So they go over, under, over, under, over, under, and so on. What's special about the warp, though, is that every piece of the warp starts opposite from the piece before it. So they do not start all over. No, they go every other. So this one started on top, this one started on the bottom, this one started on top, this one started on the bottom. Top, bottom, top, bottom. That pattern, friends, is what makes fabric so strong and sturdy so that we can use it for blankets and curtains and clothes and everything. Today for your science activity, I want you to try your best to find a piece of paper in your house. You're going to have to ask an adult to help you. You are going to try your best to make a weft using your piece of paper. What I did is I grabbed a piece of construction paper, folded it in half really carefully, and I used my scissors to do one big cut. I went down a little, one big cut, went down a little bit, one more, and then went down one last time to make 4 big cuts. Make sure that your weft is never ending, remember. It starts here, it goes around and then down, around and then down, around and then down, around and then down, all the way around. So your weft is never ending. Once you've made a weft, you're going to need a warp as well. So I have these other blank construction pieces. I'm going to take 4 of them. I think 4 is going to be enough to fill up my weft. Once you have all of your materials, you are going to use your imagination and you're going to weave a pattern, a strong pattern, just like our fabric has, that's going to help keep our fabric together. Could you imagine putting a fabric on your body that looks like this? No, you would not be warm at all. You wouldn't even be covered. So we're going to work together using our weft and our warp to try and make a fabric. So remember what I said is that always a pattern. So it's an over-under pattern. I think I'm going to try to start at the bottom. This is going to be easiest for me. And I like to start on top. So I'm going to start my piece of construction paper on top of this bottom one. And then I'm going to push it under the next. And then over. And then under. And I'm going to finish on over. Perfect. So my first piece is in there. Notice how our warp never ends. It's still going all the way around. But our weft starts from the top and it ends at the bottom. I'm going to pick a new color. And this one, remember, what's so special and sturdy about fabric is it goes every other. It's always a pattern. So I started over on my first one. Next, I'm going to start different. I'm going to start under this time. So I'm going to put my piece of construction paper under, and then I'm going to start my pattern over and under and over and under. We did something similar for our Kwanzaa mat, so you should be a pro at this. Perfect. My second piece is in. I'm going to try another one. So again, our pattern, we started over and then we started under. So next we should start over. Very good. I'm going to push this piece through my best to keep that pattern going. Looks good to me. This is the last piece that I have. Let's see if we can get it. Over, under, over. I'm going to start this one under. Awesome. Here we go. We are really making this piece of fabric nice and sturdy. Yay, we did it. And now if I pick up my piece of fabric and I start to wiggle it, nope, nothing's coming out. We are nice and sturdy. ready to go, just like all of our other fabric samples. So this is what I would like for you to try and do today for science. Try your best to make your own piece of fabric using paper from home. You will need an adult to help you make the weft, but you can make the warp yourself, and you can definitely do the weaving yourself. Try your best. Send us a picture when you're all done. Had a great day today in science with you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow for our last day together. Have fun.